Welcome. This podcast is a series of candid conversations exploring the human experience from a completely new perspective. In it, we will be diving deeply into the meaning of commonly used words and pointing you away from that old stressful way of looking at life and towards a new paradigm. This will help you find a sense of calm, cultivate meaningful relationships, and create harmony in every aspect of your life. Here is Navigating Life with Ease with Michaela, Ellis and Clare Downham.
Hey, Claire.
I think we were both waiting to say hello then we said at the same time. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. We have a little more sunshine in between the rain.
Good. I think we're getting a little bit of that too, a little more sun. And I noticed that everything was wet this morning, so we got some rain in the night, but it's coming. Summer is making its way here slowly. Yeah.
It's trying hard.
Yeah. I'm okay with it.
Fire trophy. Well, have you got a word for me?
I do indeed. Diet.
Ooh. Well, make yourselves comfortable, everybody. Gee whiz. Oh. I mean, the meaning, even like just the meaning of that word. Really, your diet is just the food that you eat. You know, that's your diet. You know, my diet, we have all sorts of different kinds of diets you can have, and culturally that's very different. And that really, that word just means what do you put in your mouth? That's your diet. You know, however, nah, it doesn't just mean that, does it? God. So, I mean, my journey with food, shall we call it that, has went on for, well, I would say it's still something that being on a diet, as I think we're kind of, most people, when you say that word, they would not just think about this is what I eat. They would think about being on one, wouldn't they? Being on a diet, i.e. to lose weight. And that was a feature of my life for a long time. I don't even know. I remember I used to be a hypnotherapist and I used to do a lot of work around weight loss. It was when I had quite a good package that I used to do with people, with a course and everything, a hypnotherapy thing. And I used to have so many clients who'd come in and they'd say, I've been going to Slimming World for 12 years. I'm going to Weight Watchers for 12 years or whatever other slimming club type thing. I mean, we've even got comedy shows and sketches about slimming clubs in this country because they're so, they're so part of the British way of being. I think I don't know what it's like over there, but they're rife here. There's a lot of them, and a lot of my clients were saying I've been in them for decades, or I've been in them for 12 years, 15 years, 20 years. And I was like, oh, that's, that's because they don't really work and, all of that stuff. And then I would, I suddenly sat down and I don't know why, but I suddenly went, oh, how long was I in slimming clubs? And I worked out that I think I first went to a slimming club probably when I was in my late teens. It might have been about 18, 19. And I think the last time I went, I was in my early 40s. So I'd done, over 2 decades of dieting. And even when I wasn't in a slimming club, I would have been doing some kind of diet. And I mean, going to what we talk about, what I'd love to see, for people to see, is the layering up of thinking about food, which is included in all the diet language. So I think while we're growing up, the conditioning that happens is that food has meaning, other than just this is what you need to fuel your body and keep it healthy. Food develops all this meaning, doesn't it? So you cut your knee and somebody gives you an ice cream to make you feel better. Or they give you an ice cream because you've got 20 out of 20 in a spelling test. Or you go out for tea because you've won something, or you get a new job and you go out to tea, or you're grieving the loss of somebody and you eat then as well. Just that you eat because you're happy, you eat because you're sad, we eat because we're celebrating, we eat because we're commiserating. Like food is not loses its actual meaning, and our diet being, you know, what we eat, that it just gets lost, and it gets almost like, I guess it's going back to this, you know, seeing our conversation as a subtractive, the diet industry and everything we've learned about. So we learn everything about food, and then rather than letting go of some of that stuff we've learned about food, what we do is we then go to a class and we learn all these things about diet. So that's even more noise. So there's a noisy system with all our childhood meanings about food. I mean, I had one client who was, this is when I was doing hypnotherapy, and she just couldn't stop eating baked goods. She was a real like cake fiend. And during the hypnotherapy, it came out that that was because she associated that with joy, because when she was little, I think it's when she went to her grandma's, or maybe when she was at home, it was, the house was always happy when there was baking happening, and it was a comfort and a joy. And so she just was getting the comfort, trying to get that feeling back of the baked good feeling that was there in the house, but by eating it. So there's all the childish stuff, and then we think, you know, oh crikey, I don't weigh the way I don't look the way I want to look. I wish I weighed less. And so then we go to the dieting industry and we get all this just masses of information. Whether it's right or wrong is almost irrelevant, because it's just too much information. I also had a client who could not look at a piece of bread without going into some kind of analysis of how many points it was worth, or how many sins it was worth, or whether it was a healthy extra from Slimming World. She just couldn't even look at a piece of bread without her mind going mad with the meaning of a piece of bread. She had so much thinking, and so as a result, all she did all day was think about food. You know, what can I eat? What can't I eat? Mostly what can't I eat? And then, of course, what do you do then? You eat. You eat more. So I think it's again going back to like more about what's helpful to let go of, rather than anything else about diet or what we should be eating, all the rules. We don't need any more rules about food. It really does take us away from our own intuition about what to eat. And you know, there's a study that I've actually heard Michael Neal talk about it, where they take this group of children, like 2 and 3 year olds, something like that, 2 or 3, and they allow them to eat what they want to eat for 2 weeks. So they present them with pretty much every food source you could, you know, be interested in at 3 years old. But then, of course, the kids eat a lot of sweets to start with. But over the 2 weeks, they create a balanced diet quite naturally without any adult intervention. But it's like we've lost that because we've been taught so many things that are nothing to do with food, nothing to do with diet, as in our diet and what keeps us healthy and what's good for us and what's not, which I think intuitively we do really know. And just our heads are just very busy with everything that's not that. Just noise, just noise. Yeah. Yeah, I'd love to know what you
Yeah. Well, in listening, it's just like, I could just feel my heart squeeze, because yes, I know too, I've experienced it myself growing up since I was a kid, really, that there was always someone in our house or in our extended family on a diet. And then they'd come and sit at the kitchen table and talk about the latest diet and what they're doing, what they're using, what they're eating, and how they're eating, and burn. Whew, yeah, a lot. And there's so much time, energy spent trying to fix a body or whatever, or a life with diet and all the other things that go with it. So, yeah, I mean, you wrapped it up really, really nicely, that the thing that I see that we're really missing is that we were we were born as yes, we had parents or caregivers in the beginning to sort of carry us along until we could start choosing for ourselves a little more, have a little more agency of the food that we reach for. But I do see that all of the information, all of the conditioning that we've, had layered on us and that we've actively sought out has hidden from us our own inner guidance on it. And not just, that study with they were 3-year-olds. I heard that too. And it's just like, it was fascinating. It was actually a few days before they started, like within 2 or 3 days before they were moving away from the sweets and all of that and choosing more of like a variety, more of a variety of foods. And it is fascinating. And we lose sight that, even with our bodies, we are guided by our own wisdom. And you and I could get this, and not that sometimes information from out there isn't helpful, but always it's taking it and bringing it in and seeing, does this feel right for me? And testing it out. Does this work for me? I've had, this kind of came up again. I had a conversation with someone and we played with putting hand on head and then hand on heart and then hand on gut and feeling into the nourishment, the pictures or images, however it came up for each. And it was fascinating to hear the words that came out of this person's mouth in checking in these different areas, because it was sort of different. It's like, that was not from a place of, let me think about, because it was admitted that, when we think about what we should be eating or shouldn't, or that's good for us and that's not, and we can't eat too much pizza, God forbid, and would not, like, no ice cream, don't keep that in the house. All of these, rules, we will, like, we default to. But when there was like a presence put to it, there was a seeing, there was something else that came out in getting quiet with it. And I guess that's it. Like you said, there's all of this information, but ultimately we get to decide, not from this thinking brain that has all this information, but what's coming up inside, and getting to know yourself, like getting to know, like, what comes up in those moments when you're not thinking about it. What are you gravitating towards? It was interesting to me when William, he's 21 now, when he was a little giffer, and there was times when he wasn't eating very much, and then I would, the next appointment or whatever, wellness appointment, I'd, ask about it. And it's like, you know what, he knows what he needs. And he might not eat very much for a number of days and then go crazy eating. That's all he wants to do is eat. And it's like, wow, that's how we are too. Our bodies, I think we have different energy outputs. We're all frequency and energy. That's all we are, right? And it's like, there's going to be different nourishment that we need, not just in physical food and drink, but also in the people we want to be around us. Like we get nourishment in all these other ways. Yeah. Anyway, I know that was a little odd, but that's kind of what came up after, because I thought, I'm learning a little more about, I've been studying human design for the last, since November of 2023. And that too, when I see those things, it's like, oh, it just points to things that we miss that are, oh yeah, we naturally, when we don't have all this thinking, this is the way that we kind of gravitate towards. Yeah, but I think just often we're so busy in our life and we carry on and we have our grocery list that we always get the same kind of stuff and we get into a rut. Yeah. Anyway, what else do you see about this?
I think what's coming to mind is, alongside our own personal conditioning, it is definitely worth realizing that the food market and the food that is on offer to us is not what our bodies were naturally created to eat. There's no getting away from it. That the highly processed food that is being presented to us, I think if we're really connected to our intuition, we won't ever gravitate towards that. Like, really, because that is not ever going to create a balanced diet, is it? It's not ever going to create health in the body. It just can't do, because it's just not what we were natural. And I think for me, I was talking to somebody about this morning, that it's just going back all the time to what's natural, not what's normal, because that's a whole different kettle of fish these days. But what's natural? What really is natural for us as human beings? And unfortunately, the vast majority of our food now is not natural.
Yeah.
And I think that's worth keeping in mind, really. I get that, if your intuition's saying to eat ice cream, that's not our intuition. It can't be, because ice cream is nothing to do with that. There's some stuff that is just not. It's so highly processed that it'll be because there's some meaning around ice cream for us. So I think that it's worth, like, remembering what our bodies were made to eat, and that our biology hasn't changed since we were hunter-gatherers, eating only 100% natural food all the time. Like, our biology has not changed, and yet we're biologically creating, quite frankly, some monstrosities in terms of food. Some of the stuff that I come across, you read the ingredients list and you just think, I'm not sure any of this should be going into a human person. And that doesn't mean, like, that's not, I'm not going to, like, spiritually bypass having a nice time and going out and eating stuff that you just fancy eating. That's just life now. We can't, you're not going to completely, but I do tend towards, in my own choices around food, I tend towards stuff that looks like food, looks like the original source, at least when it comes into my house. It's I have the occasional, lentil crisp and things like that, but I think that there's something about natural and diet. Like, what would our natural diet be? And we've moved so far from that. I don't think we can sometimes see the wood for the trees. It's hard to see, and it's hard to connect to our kind of intuition on food when there's so much processing already happened, i.e. there's so much conditioning, there's so much there's so much where the big food manufacturers are involved in creating food that is quite blatantly not good for human beings. And yet, I remember somebody once saying to me, it was a lady who I did some work with. We were designing a slimming program together for hypnotherapy program, and she said, "It's not food and junk food; it's food and junk. Some things are food; they're meant to be food for humans, and some things are just not meant to be food for human beings." So that's a little bit of a different thing around this subject, but I do think Clare Diamond talks about no-brainers.
Yeah.
Like she says, moving your body, getting some light and air each day, eating stuff that's meant to be eaten by human beings, kind of
Yeah.
bit of a no-brainer, really.
And it's going to be different, like what works for you, what feels good and right in your body may be rejected by mine. So ultimately, so whether it's food or whether it's food or movement or different kinds of movement, when you move, the time of day that you move, how long you move, the intensity that you move, how much you eat, in what order. That was one of the fascinating things about in human design, where some people have a cold digestion. I have a closed digestion. Rob is a direct, and Rob's is about light. There's certain times of the day, and there's some people who they, eating one thing at a time, like eating it doesn't matter what order, but eating all your meat first, and then eating all your potatoes first, and eating all your, that is a hunter gatherer, but it's called a consecutive eating. There's
That's
also
my daughter.
alternating. Yeah.
That's my
okay.
daughter. And she eats everything one thing at a time. I'd be interested to see what her human design is.
Well, I imagine that she is she's considered a hunter, and she probably has a consecutive digestion. So yeah, my son is alternating. So it'd be like some meat and potato, and then the vegetable, and then maybe the potato and the meat and the vegetable, and it's like alternating. And some, it has nothing to do with that. Mine is about taste. It's got to be tasty. It almost doesn't even matter what it is, but it's not. But not everyone is like that. Like, it's like there's one thing that's sort of more prominent, more driving, like your daughter with eating all of one and then all of the next. It's fascinating. And with this person who didn't know what it was, and when she described what the words that came out, it's like, wow, that is an exact match to what her human design, came out. So what I'm saying is, we have been living who we are all of our life when we've not let our thoughts about what's right and wrong dictate it. When we're just really clean and following that wisdom, that inner wisdom that we talk about, we will nourish, we will nourish our body in the way that works best for it. Yeah. But only only each of us knows exactly how that is. And it may look odd, right? It won't fit into what we've been taught is the right way, or how you should eat, or that kind of stuff. So it's always an experiment, isn't it? Some takeaways. It's just like, just notice how you prefer to do things. If you didn't have a family or other people, if you could just decide for yourself, take the rut away. This is how I always do it. What if there was no how you always did it? What would you eat next or drink? In what environment? Because that's very important too.
Yeah, maybe my final comment is about, that's just come to mind now, is back to slowing down, isn't it? Rushing around, only like having a moment to just shove something in your face, like you're not gonna be. I loved what you said about that exercise of just like touching your head, heart, stomach, and seeing what comes up around. Like, if we could slow down enough to just take a breath and ask our body what it actually needs right now, rather than, sometimes if I'm busy working during that, I'll just dash in there and grab whatever is the first thing that leaps out at me and says, "Eat me." And I go, "All right, I'll eat you then because you're there." And there's not a lot of unhealthy stuff in the house, so it's generally fairly healthy. But yeah, there's probably, if I slow down a little bit, I'd probably choose something different.
Hmm.
So, yeah, maybe in terms of seeing this and connecting to our kind of inner guidance around our diet, it's the slowest part of that, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
That was
I'd love
lovely.
to, yeah, that was good. There's always things that come out that I can take away and ponder and see more it sparks. I'm curious to know like what our listeners might want to share or what they saw with this, what came
Mm.
up for them. So we welcome comments. Our emails are in the show notes. So thank you,
Yeah,
Claire.
thank you. That was lovely. I will see you next time.
Yeah, you bet. Ciao.
Bye.
Hey, thank you for being a part of Navigating Life with Ease. We'd love to hear your feedback and receive a review on your favorite podcast platform. This will help others who'd also like more ease in their life to find us. We're here to support you, so if you've any words you'd like us to explore or you have a question, please reach out to us at navigatinglifewithease@gmail.com. Again, thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more episodes of Navigating Life with Ease.